Hello, my name is Charles Thomas Vadrine, and today I'm going to be going over basic card types in Magic the Gathering. I'm going to start off with a picture of Elvish Piper. Elvish Piper is an iconic Magic card, and it's meant to show you whimsy and how fantastical it is because it's an elf playing bagpipes with a monster lurking in a cave nearby. Now, to start, I'm going to go over the 5 basic land types of Magic the Gathering. Now, each basic land type has a color identity associated with it that is part of the game's complexity. First, we're going to start with plains, also known as white. Plains are the color of justice and soldiers and order. So that's that color identity in a nutshell. Next is islands, or blue. That is the color of permission. You're going to have a lot of cards that stop your opponent from doing things. It is also the color of knowledge. So you're going to have a lot of cards that allow you to draw more cards. Next is swamps, also known as black. Swamps are good for black spells, and black is known for creature destruction or destroying things, and is also known for having efficiently costed creatures with a drawback. So you're going to have, it basically hurts itself. Next, you have mountains, or red mana. This is the color of fire and passion. In red, you're going to have a lot of burn spells and little creatures that do damage really quickly. Red is just for hurrying up and getting it done. Then the last color is green, also known as forests. Forests are used in the game mostly to cast creatures. So it has a lot to do with creatures and creatures interacting with each other, and basically having stronger creatures with abilities that do things. They have the most efficiently costed creatures, generally speaking, and they generally have creatures with good abilities. Next, we're going to talk about permanents. Permanents is a different card type in Magic the Gathering. Permanents are your creatures, planeswalkers, enchantments, and artifacts. Now, creatures are the main mode of doing damage in the game. They're what you're going to use your basic lands to cast creature spells, and you will use those creatures to attack your opponent until they're dead. Planeswalkers are basically like little friends. Like, they are cards, they stay on the field, they have the permanent type planeswalker, but they have abilities they can activate once a turn. So it's kind of like a mini player that lets you do more things in your turn without any kind of mana cost. Like, they cost mana to cast, but once you cast them, you don't have to spend mana for anything else. The next permanent type is enchantment. Enchantments either go on the field, on players, or on creatures. On creatures, they're known as auras, or aura enchantments. But enchantments basically change the rules of the game in some way. They do something extra. They just sit on the battlefield. They sometimes have activated abilities that you can use mana to activate, but largely they do something when they come into play, or they do something that changes the rules of the game. Next is artifacts. Artifacts are generally colorless, and they do all kinds of stuff. They're artifact creatures. They can add more mana. They can do all sorts of things. Artifacts are generally colorless, but very diverse in what they're able to do. They have a lot of different abilities. So it would be really hard to kind of sum them up in a sentence or two. The next card type I'm going to go over is spells. Now, in Magic, there are basically two kinds of spells. Well, everything's considered a spell, but these are spells that are not permanents. So you have your instants, which I'm showing in the card Counterspell, which is a very iconic card in Magic the Gathering. An instant can be played on either player's turn. So if it's your opponent's turn, you can play it whenever you get priority. So anytime they make an action, you're able to react to that action. And that is what instances are largely used for. You can play them on your own turn, but generally they're good because you can play them on your opponent's turn. And you can only use them once. These are like one-shot spells. Instants and sorceries, you only use one time, you do not get them back. You use them and they're done. Next, you have sorceries. Sorceries are like instants in that you can only use them once, but you can only use them on your turn and only during your main phases. So you can't do anything cool with them, but they're usually pretty powerful because you're only able to use them once. This has been the basic card types in Magic the Gathering. I hope you have a better understanding of the game now.